thank our sponsors, including Tripwire and the DeKalb County Entertainment Commission. Without them, we couldn't do this. It's a pleasure having all of you here, and I appreciate the people that are acting as panelists here, coming in and helping. And I think we do have the rules. We're going to have 3 categories of winners that the panelists will make the decision based on a survey that they're going to be sent if they haven't already been sent the link.
It's been sent. It was sent in an email this morning. So
okay, all right. And there's the 3 categories are best overall, which is who the panelists consider to be the best, most promising to raise money, and they don't get a cash prize because they're generally considered to be they're not a startup. The money we offer as cash prizes wouldn't be enough to affect them. Then we have the second category is best startup, and that we pay the $1,500 cash prize to them, whoever wins that. And then we have best startup in Georgia, pay $1,000 for that. There's other details, but all the details are what you would expect them to be. And I think that is anything that anybody can think of? Andrew, you want to say something for the DeKalb County Commission?
What's it not?
All right, let's go. We'll start with Lavosky Brown.
All right, and thanks so much for the introductions, everybody.
Hold on 1 second, please. I need to know exactly how much time am I supposed to give him, and
5 minutes for his presentation, and 5 minutes for the questions and answers.
thanks. And my apology for interrupting right off. I just want to make sure fair to everybody. So
sure.
Yeah, not a problem.
Okay.
And Joe, are you going to give them any kind of warning or hold up 2 fingers or whatever?
You know, I'm going to hold up one at 1 minute, but if you don't see me, that's fine. And I'm really just going to talk and say, sorry, time's up. That's, you know, when you hit the limit. Okay?
Okay. Sounds good.
Lavosky, I just set you up as a co-host of the meeting, so you should be able to share your screen with us.
Okay.
And I'm going to mute everyone else for now. So, yeah.
All right, so apologies if this takes a moment. I actually do not use Zoom very much, so I'm looking for the share button now.
Will I be able to be unmuted so I can go time's up when the time comes?
Yes, you will.
Thank you very much.
All right, let me share.
Are you announcing which companies are going first?
Wow, that is really cool.
Oh, wait, that's on the agenda.
Okay, and just let me know once you're able to see the screen presentation.
We sent out a list of the
We
presenters.
can see it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and you can just let me know when I'm ready to start. I I can't hear if Joe's saying whether to start or not.
Abby, he was asking whether he can start, so somebody should be telling him, yes, you can start. I'm waiting for, as soon as you really start your presentation is when I'll start the time. But
okay. So
everyone is muted except for Joe and Lebowski. So Lebowski, I say go ahead and start.
Okay. All right, well, hello everyone, and thank you for your time today. My name is Lebowski Brown. I'm the founder of the esports team Detonate. In the last 10 years, we've seen great strides and growth for competitive video games and esports teams worldwide. But according to Newzoo, global esports revenues are projected to go to, sorry, as I'm having trouble going to the next slide, 1.05 billion in 2020. So this is rising from the previous 950.6 million in 2019. Now, included in this is, of course, North America with roughly $252.8 million in revenue, which brings at NA to about 25% of the esports revenue. With growing investments, new facilities, and the industry in one of the largest booms since 2010, there's one problem that we have to address. The Southeastern United States have yet to see any rising professional esports teams utilize their resources in the development of their locale. The ecosystem is ripe for professional lifestyle esports brands, given that franchise teams have already been established, but these franchise teams are unfortunately limited to a single esport. For example, the Atlanta Reign cannot compete in the League of Legends Championship Series, the same way that the Atlanta FaZe can't compete in Rocket League Championship Series, even though these are both prominent communities. But this begs the question, who is that lifestyle esports team in the Southeast? Detonate is poised to be that brand, actually. We aim to solve that problem by lighting the spark for competing in worldwide competitive leagues, bringing content creators to events and conventions for fans across the globe to interact with and share experiences with as well. We also want to build a foundation of winning culture around our teams and athletes. But our end game is to become the leading lifestyle esports team in the Southeast and outshine our opposition in all aspects of competition, content creation, and lifestyle gaming. With our brand identity, we've created, on to the next slide. So with our brand identity, we've created a versatile logo that can be used in many different themes and settings, which will serve us pretty well when we're marketing and advertising. So because our primary target audience are gamers, we sought to keep the logo gaming centric using a lit fuse on a stick of dynamite to draw out that D-shaped logo, which I'm now wearing on my chest. We feel this is impactful as many games not only involve explosives, but will embellish them with heavy virtual effects. So this is more important to us than anything else, though, is that the brand be timeless. In 10 years, we want to maintain that same impact we have on the community that we have from day one. So in order to really sell the brand identity, we believe that this logo gives our brand the competitive edge it needs to remain sales focused. As with all esports teams, the way that we generate revenue is imperative to our success. So how do esports teams make their money? So what esports teams do to make money? We have many different methods to monetize our brand rather than just the typical 1 or 2 monetization methods of a normal business model. Sponsors make up the bulk majority of this revenue from endemic and non-endemic companies who spend top dollar on your brand to further your operations and increase your visibility for your athletes and influencers. Other methods include, as listed, advertising, tournament earnings, revenue sharing, ticket sales, merchandise, and media rights deals. Starting this team in the Southeast, specifically in Atlanta, gives us a bit of a tactical advantage over our competitors. We have potential partners with Georgia, specifically for the tax credit, which provides a 20% tax credit for companies spending around $500,000 or more on production and post-production costs in Georgia, and an additional 10% if you include the logo in the final product. Our friends over at Axis Replay have been pivotal to the economic growth and opportunity in esports, providing resources and facilities for staff, content creators, and esports athletes and media production. The city is also home to many different film production providers and non-endemic companies like Netflix, as you see listed, which currently, we're looking for opportunities to advertise towards. So lastly, trying to get the slide situation down.
Sorry, time's up. We're on to questions.
Yep, no problem. Feel free to ask any questions that you may have at this time.
And everyone should be able to unmute themselves.
Hey, Lavosky, can you talk about any existing talent that is currently on the roster?
Currently, I cannot, as these are all within conversation. Seeing as how our company is still within early stages, we're still in planning. So a lot of our contingents are individuals that we've reached out to, but no solidified deals have happened just yet. Our goal, however, is to reach out to these individuals after securing funding.
Then can you talk about your target demographic for the talent and the reasoning behind it?
Yes, so my target demographic is solely on professional influencers that are making a very large impact in the community, whether they be cosplayers or streamers. The likes, they usually are multifaceted or multi-versatile. But as well as this are our athletes that we're looking forward to working with. Rocket League, Fortnite, League of Legends, these games have the largest market of individual. So we're aiming at being involved with those primarily.
I'll throw out a question if I may. It's kind of riffing off what Thomas is talking about. I mean, you're in the situation, it sounds like, where you have, at the moment you have, the idea and a great intention, but you have no team and no sponsors. How does it get started? What's the first step?
Well, esports teams are a little bit different than normal companies. They usually have to raise capital first in order to begin their operations. For me, I'd say right now is to get the brand image together and begin networking, speaking with the correct individuals, as well as getting the brand, myself included, in front of the correct potential partners and correct potential sponsors. I already have a pretty vast network that I've already spoken with that are interested in this idea, just as an idea. But I'm also looking to get an angel investor or an investment firm involved to push the growth and development of not only this team, but also the economy here in Atlanta for esports lifestyle teams.
Have you done an assessment as to why the other teams failed and how you plan to overcome that? And then how do you plan, what's the intention of the $1 million in providing a return on investment to people that provide that to you?
Do you mind asking that in separate parts? Just so
sure. Okay. So first question is, what were the challenges that may cause these other teams to not succeed, and how are you going to be different, to not be on that same path work? Is the marketplace really ready to support a team here? Is kind of the first question.
Yeah, so I definitely believe the marketplace, especially in Atlanta, Georgia, is here finally. I wouldn't say that others have failed per se. However, nobody really has come forth with the opportunity here in Atlanta. Ghost Gaming just moves from Los Angeles over to Atlanta, which I believe actually only solidifies that it is definitely our time here in the Southeast. But there aren't very many teams, if any at all, that exist for lifestyle esports brands in the Southeast. And that's what I'm looking to bridge the gap between. There aren't currently any professional opportunities for individuals who want to move up from the collegiate level into a professional level. Let's say somebody plays collegiate League of Legends, who is their go-to? There's nobody here. They would have to uproot their life and move over to California no matter what.
Okay. So then how do you plan on the payback? Is it just a revenue share till something's paid back, or is going to actually be an equity play?
Yes. So there will be an equity play. Specifically, I actually had another slide going forward that outlined exactly, what we were looking for. It was $1.6 million for 70% equity. We're actually looking for somebody who's looking for controlling interest. Neither myself nor my business partner have as much experience as somebody else should in financial or business, the business side of things. We are more keen to being managers and have worked in esports teams before on the management end, but never on the executive end. So our goal is to adhere to an executive, bring them onto the team so that we can further our growth and development.
Okay.
You're done if anybody can hear me. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. That's it for the questions.
All right. And thank you so much for your time.
Okay, so Levosky, if you could go ahead and exit out of screen share, and I'm going to remove your co-hosting ability and give that over to Tim Chandler.
How are we doing?
Okay, so I'm going to mute everyone. Tim, you're going to have to unmute yourself in just a second, and then you should be able to screen share.
All righty, I'm used to using Google Meet, so give me just a second to get my life together here. Okay, you can tell me when I'm able to start.
Joe, are you ready?
You can start.
Okay, I'm going to hit my timer. All right. My name is Tim Chandler. I'm one of the co-founders of PurposePlay, and this journey began in September of 2017. My family and a couple other families in our area hosted a children's choir from Uganda, and being on staff at the church that hosted them, I felt like I had to host some kids, but when they got here, they made such an impact on us that 4 months later, in December of 2017, myself and a couple friends found ourselves on a plane heading to Uganda, Africa. And we spent 10 days there, traveled from school to school, from community to community. And while we were there, I felt this huge burden to figure out what we could do for these students and for people who live in these underserved areas of the world. And we were sitting under a mango tree in rural Uganda, and one of my buddies said, "Man, I hope my son is keeping up with my Clash of Clans." And I immediately said, "I got it. We're going to build a game that represents these communities in the underserved parts of the world, and then we'll take the lion's share of the revenue, and we will go and begin to build these sustainable communities throughout the world." And so then on our way back, PurposePlay was kind of born. We incorporated as a public benefit corporation under PurposePlay Inc., and we began to work on our first game, which is Humango, which is our flagship game. And so I'm not able to switch. Let me see here. There we go. And so PurposePlay is a startup gaming community that hopes to bring the virtual to reality through simulation gameplay. And our flagship game is a game that develops sustainable communities. And then in hand, we take the money and we build these communities. Our goal is to have sustainable communities on 6 of the 7 continents within the next 10 years. It also kind of lines up with the UN's SDGs, which a lot of major corporations are kind of jumping onto and helping out with. So I think there's a lot of commercial and marketing possibilities with that. We are in the what I would call the tech demo or the buck naked demo process of it, where we kind of have the grid layout and everything going, but we are just shy of a proper vertical slice. We are in a full cycle agreement with Bad Rhino Studios, which I believe is presenting later. But they are going to build Humango out for us once we're able to secure the capital for that. We will start with building for the PC and Switch, and this will allow us to build this community of invested players around. And as the game sells and kind of gains traction, we are going to release it into consoles, and then eventually a mobile launch for casual players to just kind of spread it out there and get people on board with it. The cost for the game development proper, just for Humango, is just under 1.4 million, and then the rest of that will go toward going to location and sourcing, because another arm of this is going to be a YouTube channel. We'll take a film crew over to film the progress that is being made. That way, it's a source of transparency for us, but also possibly another revenue stream where people can play their game, see what kind of impact they're having, and then flip over to the YouTube channel and see what kind of impact that their money and their patronship is having. So we're looking at a total of 1.5. There are a couple links down here. We've got the links to Bad Rhino Games, which has our project on it. And over here, it also has, if you scroll down, it will also have a link to our pitch deck and a short video of kind of the tech demo that we have to show the mechanics of it. And then we also have our website, and then I mentioned the SDGs, and that website will also.
And that's it. Yep.
Will also show those. So, questions?
As kind of the game developer in the room, can I ask the obvious one, which is, how do you think you're going to make any money?
Well, that'll be through, I'm trying to find my screen again. That'll be through, oh, there we go. Sorry, I'm trying to get my life together here. There we go. That will be through in-app purchases and advertisements, but also we hope on the front end to do a premium game where we can sell at a lower price point to get.
Okay. Do you have any concept? You said Steam and Switch. Do you have any concept of what percentage of games on Steam reach $1 million?
I do not.
Okay. I can tell you it's a very small number. So yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but the basic piece of, you know, how are you going to make money? It's a lovely idea. I approve of the idea of giving back, and we do a decent amount of that. But you have to make a profit before you can give money away. And I'm not completely sure I see that you know how you're going to do that.
Well, we're in a full cycle. We have the concept. We're in a full cycle deal with Bad Rhino Games, and they're kind of the ones in the gaming industry that's building it out. And then we're taking what revenue that is kind of our cut of the share, and then we are going out to do the social impact aspect of it.
No, I understand that part. What I don't see is why you think you're going to make money on the game. I mean, Bad Rhino, I gather they're presenting later. You're paying them to develop a game, so they have no skin in the game?
Well,
Are they investing in this?
yes, actually they are. They're investing in a lot of time equity, and then we'll eventually get 5% out of that as well.
Sorry, they'll get 5% or you'll get 5%?
They'll get 5%.
Okay.
The studio itself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as far as a city builder or perhaps a strategic game, one of the main reasons is just the purpose of it, right? I mean, there are people that are playing games like Clash of Clans, Farmville, Cityscapes, or whatever it is already. But if you add in the added value of knowing that your dollars or your patronage is going to make the world a better place, that kind of gives a little bit of a kicker to know that in your recreational time, in your leisure time, even in the things that you're doing already, those are being leveraged in order to help the underserved across the world.
How do you guys envision building a exciting isometric world building game using a Nintendo Switch? I'm a little bit confounded by the idea that you're going to publish on PC and Switch first. Those are very, very different platforms with wildly different expectations from the consumer base. And so I'm curious about how functionally you guys envision building this game on a Switch.
Well, I believe I have two boys. One is 9 and one is 12, and I'm looking more of a community-based thing where you can build in, but you can interact within those communities, a lot like, say, Animal Crossings or something like that on the Switch. And then PC, I'm looking something more along the lines of a Frostpunk vibe.
Got it. So you want to build two games, and the Switch game is a companion game to the PC game. Is that accurate?
That's a question more for, I would say, more for our developer.
Sorry, that was a rhetorical question. You want to build two games. It sounds like, I guess. Got it. Okay, cool. Interesting.
And we're time's up for questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so next up we will have Lauren with Vertical Shift coming in just a minute.
Hello, everybody. Okay, so do I need to do anything to get the screen share power?
Yes, you do. Or rather, I do. Okay, so I've made you a co-host. I'm about to mute everyone. You will need to unmute yourself.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
How about now? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. And can everybody see my slide deck?
Yep, we can hear you and we can see your slide deck.
Perfect. Well, I am ready when you guys are.
Just start.
All right. Well, my name is Lauren Fieser. I'm the Business Development Manager of Corrupted Media Studios, and I'm here to introduce you to our brand new virtual reality esport, Vertical Shift. Vertical Shift is a game where players are given a grapple hook and jetpacks, and they fly through competitive esports and dense cityscapes to really feel like a superhero. It's designed from the ground up for virtual reality, and the controls are all based off motion controls. And we currently enjoy a Discord of over 250 members for our playtesters. The game is being developed by 6 talented developers, and with me contributing story elements as well as the business development. It's a little bit easier to show Vertical Shift than to tell, as with many virtual reality games. So I have a quick trailer to show you. This right here is our jetpack, which comes out of the palms. It'll fire off in a second there. There it goes. It should seem familiar to anyone who watches superhero movies, as should our grapple hook. These two are meant to be used in conjunction together to create interesting maneuvers and different ways to play. everyone I've seen play this game has found their own way to play. There's no one perfect way, and I really, really enjoy that about our play style. If I can get the next slide. Using these movement mechanics, we've set up lots of different game modes you can play, all based off of competitive esports and real sports. We have freeze tag, where 2 teams face off, infection, which works a lot like Halo's infection, hot seat, where one player tries to hold the hot seat for as long as they can while other players take it, racing, which is a little bit self-explanatory, and our single player content, which is meant to train players to get better at their multiplayer experience. Our game has no ending, like with all esports, and for the same reason a group of people will gather every Sunday to play football, communities that build around esports can last for years, as we've already seen discussed earlier today. And we plan to engage with that community for as long as they will have us. I want to talk briefly about the market we're going to be entering into because it's interesting. VR is on a major uptick right now. It saw slow adoption at the beginning as headsets were expensive, but now with the launch of the Oculus Quest 2, we're at the verge of the major adoption of VR. And esports have already been gone through this morning, so I don't want to dive too deep, but esports have also seen exponential growth in the recent years, with ESPN even covering esports competitions this year due to the pandemic. So we're aiming for the intersection of those two, and it's not a crowded intersection. There are, on the Oculus Quest, approximately 6 games total that can be considered an esport. There's clearly room for a new entrant, and that's going to be us. We're cross-platform, so we can attract that Oculus Quest niche, but also we can approach the PC VR players on the Index and the HTC Vive. Our game can fit up to 10 people per session, so it's easily a esport. It's non-violent, so we can be E for everybody. It's based off of tag. And in truth, we built this game because we wanted to play it as VR players, and it didn't exist yet. We've got a road ahead of us. We're currently in alpha, and we're building the foundation for the game. The game is working, and it's being played daily by our playtesters from around the world. We're going to launch our beta to the public in January of 2021, and then we're going to spend a year in intense development, perfecting the game, adding new game types, proprietary assets, and everything we can to make the perfect VR esport. And then in December of 2021, we're going to launch our Gold for $15 on Oculus and Steam. We have 5 projected revenues we expect. Esports have a good diversity in revenue streams. During our beta, we're going to try to get some donations through a Patreon. We're going to be selling the game for $15, as I said before. That is $5 less than the average price of a game on the Oculus Store. We're going to have in-game cosmetic purchases for things like hats and costumes. We're going to have in-game advertising because virtual reality creates a very seamless and unobtrusive space to introduce advertising. And we'll be able to sell tickets to our tournaments once we really ramp up the esports scene of our game. VR is the future of gaming. We're right now in the same moment that computer gaming saw in the 90s, where large labels haven't yet moved into the scene. So smaller indie teams, such as names like you might have heard of Valve or id Software, starting as smaller teams and developing major games that develop them as a brand and a brand leader for, almost a generation now. That's what we're aiming to do with Vertical Shift as Corrupted Media. And we need $225,000 in order to fund this year of development we're going into. In exchange, we're offering 25% equity in our company. That's what I have to say. Hopefully I made it into the 5 minutes. Thank you guys very much for listening, and thank you for your consideration.
You did. You're right at 5, and we're ready for 5 minutes of questions.
Perfect. I'm going to leave my fun slide up.
How much are you planning to charge for the game? Like, what is your revenue model to look like?
So the cost of the game is going to be $15. We chose that price because it's $5 less than the average price on the Oculus Store, and we want to really lower the barriers to entry for the game because we want to really grow our player base. In terms of in-game purchases, such as the cosmetic items, we plan to set up an in-game currency that can be earned either through purchases of the coins or through in-game rewards. So players are able to really work in the game to get the cosmetic items as well. Around there, we're thinking probably an average price of $1 to $2 for the cosmetic items when boiled down to the currency. And that's based off of a survey we did of our playtesters.
Any idea? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you can go ahead, Alan.
Okay, cheers. Oh, hang on, you haven't got a word past me yet. You go.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about the competition you're talking about. I mean, I assume it includes things like Spark and stuff, but what success have they seen? Other games that have kind of fit that that intersection.
The biggest games in the VR esports scene right now are Onward, Pavlov, Echo Arena, and a new game that's on SideQuest, the sort of pre-release store for the Oculus Quest, is Hyperdash. They have both seen really, really good downloads. Onward's seen 1 million downloads on Steam. Pavlov's seen 500,000. Onward and Pavlov have now been ported to the Oculus Quest, though their numbers aren't quite as publicly available as Steam's numbers are. But they have all seen significant revenues. And actually, in the Oculus Connect conference, the Mark Zuckerberg talked about 30 games on the Oculus Store of 160 have seen revenues north of $1 million. So we've seen a lot of success in this scene just from the games that are entering. And most of those games are just competitive shooters. There's only been one based off of sports, and that's Echo Arena, which was developed by Facebook themselves. If that answers your question. Oh, I think you're still muted.
How far along are you on development of the of your game?
Absolutely. We're in alpha right now. So we have 5 working game types that work perfectly. We have a working, anyone can download the alpha now on our Discord. I'd be happy to link that to you guys. We're playing every Saturday. We invite a bunch of people on and fill up our servers to really test things out. Our biggest limitation right now is without funding, we can't bring our servers, we can't raise our server limit past 20 players. So we're really waiting for the funding to push that game and get it out in the public.
No question.
Go ahead.
Good presentation, and your 225 for 25% seems very fair, but you know it's going to take a lot more money to get a game really into the segment that you're targeting. Have you done any started to make any inroads into the venture capitalists that will bring the rest of the funding around?
Yeah, we're pushing that way. We also expect modest revenues during alpha because we're going to be launching the in-game cosmetic items during alpha. We're going to be starting the tournaments, though I'm not sure we're going to be able to push that quite towards ticket sales at that time. But we're also going to have the Patreon and in-game advertisements. So we're going to have modest revenues to supplement what we're asking for. If we need to bridge that gap further, then we're going to start reaching out to more venture capital.
Okay.
Thank you for the question.
I'll throw another one in. Oh, sorry.
Go for it.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you talked about Onward. If you're referring to the Steam Spy figures, you'll notice there's something very dodgy about them. You should take very careful. Pardon?
You're talking about the range that they offer?
No, I'm talking about just the absolute numbers. If you look at the graphs for it, and the fact that they have a grand total of 165 concurrent players. A game that's nominally shifted 600,000 units that has 165 players hasn't shifted 600,000 units. It's crashed and burned. There's something dodgy going on in the data there.
And we're out of time. Sorry, he can't quite answer that. Maybe offline. Although it sounded rhetorical.
I did have.
It was getting to a question.
Well, thank you all the same. Sounds good. Thank you all very much, and I really appreciate all your time.
And next up, we have Sophie Fink from Foursquare Education, and I'm about to give you screen sharing access and mute everyone.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and if you didn't hear the rules before, I will hold up one for 1 minute left, and then just sort of cut you off at the 5. So good luck.
All right, can everyone see this?
Yep, we can see that and we can hear you.
Okay, great, thank you. This is Max. Max has been in foster care since he was 8 years old. Next year, when he turns 18, he will choose to leave the system. There is a 20% chance that Max will become homeless immediately after aging out, and a 70% chance he will be on government assistance in 4 years. Youth in foster care are the most at-risk demographic in the United States. Of the 500,000 total, 23,000 age out of the system each year. How can we help Max and others like him? My company is here with a solution. My name is Sophie Fink, and I am a 5th year at Georgia Tech, graduating in a little less than a month now. Foursquare Education is a fun, engaging, and educational platform to teach financial literacy to youth in foster care. We are a Georgia-based 501c3 awaiting final confirmation from the IRS. We started this program in 2016, and we hosted an in-person program where we brought students to Georgia Tech's campus and helped over 100 students through this platform. In order to expand nationally, we decided to create a video game, Profit Planet. The goal of the game is simple. Students graduate from high school in the game and arrive on this new planet where they have to learn basic financial skills in order to survive. We start by teaching them budgeting and tempt them with an in-game store. Do they really need to buy a $1,000 Supreme logo t-shirt? Probably not, but that's up to their budget to decide. Additionally, because so many foster kids are afraid that banks are out there to steal their money, we have an in-game bank so they can learn more about interest and how it can help them, and how banks can help build their savings account, and how having a bank account is a lot safer than storing your money underneath your bed. We also have these fun mini games to really enforce the knowledge that they're learning throughout the game and give them jobs. So the example on the screen right now is a pizza delivery driver. He has to fly around and avoid asteroids in order to get to his final location. In addition to teaching them these basic skills, we also set their sights higher by showing them about the stock market and investing and other vehicles for future success. Guiding them through their entire time on this new planet is this little robot man. They can ask him questions. He can ask them quiz questions and give them more money. It's a very immersive dialogue. And just as a side note, we will be reskinning this game in the future. As a nonprofit, we have been able to talk to dozens of organizations across Atlanta to ensure that our curriculum that we are building will fit into the pre-existing programs. And every single organization we've talked to has been really excited for our future success. And we know that financial literacy education isn't just a need for foster kids. Traditional high school students also need this knowledge. So in the future, that's another revenue path that we can explore. However, for foster kids, we do want to provide this game for free. The curriculum that we've created is based off of Jumpstart metrics and standards. And Jumpstart has created standards for 4th, 8th, and 12th grade. So even though we are focusing on high school students, we can't just focus on the 8th and 12th grade curriculum. Foster kids move schools on average 6 times. So a 10th grader may be performing math at the level of a 6th grader. Because of this, we are really incorporating all of these levels of curriculum, starting at the 4th grade level and building up so these students stay engaged and really get the maximum content of this knowledge. Now, what are we looking for? For the next 6 months, we are looking to raise a total of $109,500 in tax-deductible donations. Every single dollar that we raise will definitely count. This money will go towards finalizing our MVP so we can begin beta testing. Now, all of these donations will go directly towards our developers. The rest of our team, including myself, is made up of an incredible network of volunteers. We are always looking for more volunteers, so anyone with a background in education, finance, game design, art development, we would love to have you join our team. We can help make a change in the lives of thousands of foster kids, but I need your help. Thank you so much for your time. Please let me know if you would like our business plan or a link to make a donation. And let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Great. So you get about 15 extra seconds for the question part. So go ahead, guys. Sorry.
What Sophie, what was the motivation behind the idea? Like, how did you come up with it?
So I actually started this my freshman year of college. I was in a living learning community called Grand Challenges at Georgia Tech, where they say, find a problem in the world and come up with a solution. And my team decided to focus on financial literacy. Now, 4 years later, I'm the only one working on this program. But I am very passionate about this space now, having worked here for 4 years.
I have a question. I'm a foster dad as well, and I want to know, how are you expecting to get this into the hands of the kids who are foster kids? Because one of the things that happens is they move around a lot, and there is a huge loss of communication from home to home. So is this something you're going to market to the foster parents, to the DSSs of the states? What are your thoughts on that?
So we are initially going to go through DFACS, the Department of Family and Child Services. We've already had a couple conversations with them. So it's one avenue that we can go in, and they can provide it to each child or to the foster parents. Really, we want to rely on them to tell us what they think would be the best mode of distribution. They definitely know better than we do. We also can incorporate it into the pre-existing programs. Let me go back a couple of slides. So we've worked very closely with the Orange Duffel Bag Initiative in the past, and Mac for Kids already has some financial literacy curriculums that students have to pass in order to get a bank matching account through SunTrust. So we can work within these pre-existing curriculums and share what we have created.
Sophie, I have a question. So I just want to make sure, because you've established as a nonprofit or not-for-profit company.
Yes.
And you're seeking donations. So
yes.
the game is really truly just a social purpose in its intent and to be sustainable within the organization. So have you been successful, or what kind of reaction have you gotten from foundations and from different folks? Have you done a fund me, things like that to get this thing going?
So we have not been able to apply for any grants so far, just because we are awaiting that final confirmation from the IRS. As soon as you get that paperwork, whenever they decide to send it to us, then we will be able to apply for grants. But in terms of funding, because I think that was your main question, how will we continue this in the future? We are thinking, so we do have that in-game bank. And banks are very interested in the foster child population because they are currently unbankable. So a lot of the pre-existing lecture series for foster kids are led by banks. Someone from a bank will come and speak to these kids about why they need to budget. That's really where we started, because they are very enjoyable to go to. I've been to quite a few of them. They give out candy, that's the best part. So we think that white labeling the bank would be a great way to have a revenue stream. So saying in Georgia, Wells Fargo decides to put their name on the bank. Suddenly, this group of foster kids now becomes a bankable population that Wells Fargo can make money off of.
Okay, thanks. Good luck.
Thank you. Do you mind clarifying that question? Yes. Right. Of course. So as I said, we know that it's not just foster kids who need this. Traditional students also need this program. And we've talked to schools, private, public, and charter schools around Atlanta, and all of them were very interested in incorporating this program because something like this does not currently exist. There is not an overall financial literacy curriculum for schools. So down the line, as soon as we really have this MVP moving, we can think about creating a sister LLC or through the nonprofit, selling the program to school systems and using the money to continue funding the foster kid branch. So there are a a lot of foundations that currently raise money for foster kids and these social impact organizations such as ours. So we have been doing quite a bit of research, just figuring out what organizations really are interested in supporting foster kids. Bank endowments are definitely a big one, but there are dozens of foundations across the country who are interested in this.
Okay, that's it.
All right, thank you
Nice
so much for your
job.
time.
Thank you.
Okay, so next up we are going to have Mike from Flamehawk Studios. So I'm going to mute everyone, give him screen sharing access, and you will need to unmute yourself to start your presentation.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I've got, it says host disabled participant screen sharing, so I'm just waiting for that.
Okay.
Here we go. All right, you guys tell me when you can see that, and then we'll get going.
You can see it. We're all set.
All right, great. Those are some really tough acts to follow, and if I had a vote, I already know who I'm voting for so far. So, all right, I'm going to try to, as I said to you guys, I'm a long-winded person, and I'm going to try to do this in 5 minutes. I'll probably only get 10% of what I want to say done here. So I'm 43 years old. I've been playing games since I could possibly play them, right? So I'm a lifelong gamer here, and now I've got a 13-year-old and I've got an 8-year-old. A couple of years ago, what I recognized is screen time kind of changed over the years, and it became this much more intense personal thing where I used to go to arcades and then I was playing Nintendo, you know, from the couch with my buddies. And now what we see is kids are kind of just glued to screens, and the amount of time they spend on screens. As a lifelong gamer, even I looked at my kids and I was saying, wow, man, I remember going out and playing tackle football in the concrete streets of Staten Island, New York. And I just see these kids grinding as much as they possibly can. If left unchecked, you know, there could be a Fortnite session that could go on for 12 hours without eating breaks if we don't pay close attention. And this isn't just something that was happening in my house because my kids are playing with other kids. So now I'm talking to other parents. And, you know, 2 years ago, I decided, I thought maybe I should actually get involved here and do something about it. So another part of the puzzle, there's three things really. The screen time rising. Another piece was the free-to-play nature of these games. So if my kid wants to look like John Wick in Fortnite, that's a $20 fee or whatever it's going to be. And over time, there's really no end to the amount of in-app purchases that can be done. So, you know, it's designed to kind of get us to spend money. And as a parent, I'm looking at this process and I'm going, where is my money really going? And I could prove that. There was a game called Hero Up that my kids used to play. It was a Marvel game. And if I asked my 13-year-old, do you remember anything about that game? He does not. He doesn't even remember playing it. But we probably spent $100 over 3 years on that game. So again, the question for me was, where is my money going? And the third piece for me was that the schools were assigning e-learning games to my kids. The problem is those games didn't resonate. My kids would play them because they were made to play them by the school. But the disconnect first of all, the game didn't feel like a Fortnite or a Minecraft or a Roblox, right? So my kid wouldn't play that game voluntarily. They would play it over sitting at the kitchen table like most of us did with a pen and paper doing their homework. They rather play the game than do homework like that, but they would never rather play it than Minecraft or Roblox. So when I looked at those games, I felt that there was a disconnect. The game didn't feel like a game, number one. And number two, ultimately, the stuff that was in that game, the learning curriculum, didn't line up with what was going on in the classroom itself. And that I felt was a huge disconnect. So as a dad, I put those things together. I found some like-minded people in 2018, and we started building a prototype, which will be ready next month. So I do have a deck. Instead of showing my deck, I have some pictures that I think I put together that would make the most sense. The first thing that I wanted to do is address the disconnect, right? That e-learning game, even though it says third grade math, doesn't line up with what my kid's actually doing on the whiteboard at school. So what we did here is we have our own content that we're putting in the game, but we also created a front end that we can give to homeschool parents or regular parents or teachers or the school systems. And the idea is they can put their own material in the game that they're doing in their classroom. And we've also had conversations with Schoology, and the idea would be, if you're using a repository right now to track all your stuff, we can pull it via API and send it into the game. So the idea is you can put it in there using this front end, and it will show up in the game the same way that you're putting it in on the web-based application. It'll show up in the battle trivia portion of the game. This is a turn-based combat game, and the idea is that when your character goes, you'll be thrown a bunch of questions. The more you answer right, the stronger your spells are, and the better the loot will be. So because this is real time, meaning teachers can put this in and it will arrive to the student while they're playing. You can also do it canned, but in a real time way. It means a student, a teacher, we could have game modes where a teacher could be a raid boss, for example. And this is how it would look, where a bunch of kids are firing spells at the teacher, but those spells will only connect if they're answering the questions right. What we've been compared to is kind of a online version of Quiz Bowl. So I could go through, a conversation where I believe this is even an esport. With 30 seconds left, I really can't get as far into that as I'd like to. But the two things that I do want to talk about here, though, is that we are dedicated to sending a portion of what we make to certain charities. Right now, I've spoken to the 4 here, and we've got written agreements in place where parents that subscribe to our game can choose which of the charities a portion of their money go to. And with my last 10 seconds, I really want to focus on diversity and inclusion. So if you take a close look, this character right here has got a prosthetic arm, and this character sitting in a wheelchair. We feel that the disabled community is not represented in video games. So we're leading with that. And that's something that we really want to get done. That's my 5 minutes and 4 seconds.
You were good. Thank you. Open for questions.
That's a lot to digest. Number one, we could do a revenue share with them. But number two, and more importantly, this is a way for them to teach people about who they are and what they do. So kids having to grind the questions to get the Robin suit will learn all about the Robin intellectual property. And hopefully, from Warner Media's view, that would position them to have a new client out there who wants to buy more Robin material and know more about Robin. So what we're going to do initially is just release it on PC for the general public. The idea here is to get into every single school district as humanly imaginable. So I think the right way to do that, though, is gain traction with the public and then be able to go to the schools with proof. Kids love it. Kids are learning from it. We can show you the data, right? Because schools are notoriously stingy with the amount of money they want to spend. But we do know that they spend billions on ed tech every year, especially with COVID. This process is exacerbated.
So, Michael, the students will the teachers will actually interact with the students.
Yeah, we could do that. That's like I showed you before. So we could put game modes in there, which would be normal raid boss type game modes or PvP type game modes. The teacher would be in there, and they can either pull from their repository of questions, or they can even write new ones on the fly and push them right to the kids as they're all playing together. So the idea, this is a perfect, it's funny because I'm not Karnak, but 2 years ago when we started building this, I never imagined a world where remote learning was such an important thing. So right now, the teacher could be the raid boss in the game, firing spells at the kids, and the kids could be firing back, and they could all be doing that together. It's a way to blow off steam while reinforcing the exact lessons that will be on the test this coming Friday.
And could you actually do your homework or take the test in this environment as well?
Our catchphrase is play your homework. So the idea is that teachers could assign this as homework. They're doing that already with the e-learning games that we see right now. That's how my kids were receiving it. It was go home and do level 2. So it would be the same thing for us.
Very cool.
So have you looked into, I know everybody kind of homeschools now, but the homeschooling market is a huge marketplace where the parents are oftentimes operating with guides or sort of like a coach that helps them in their educational side of things for teaching lessons and stuff.
Yeah.
So something like this where you would give them, because that seems like that would be a big marketplace for this.
Yes.
And that might get you the traction to be able to leverage within the school systems as well, but provide that kind of curriculum of how they can add it themselves like a teacher would, or versus I guess a self-contained unit that you're going to sell directly to a consumer.
that is, I think, part of our bread and butter, especially at launch. So we did a Kickstarter and actually made over $50,000 on it. And if you go look at the comments, and there's some of them on the screen right now, the homeschool parents are behind us 100%. We've got over 4,000 Facebook followers too. There's people out there that don't feel like they're being serviced. And this is a way, especially with what's going on in homeschool right now, this is a way for parents to even put this in front of their kid and know it's not Call of Duty. And know
And
that
we're done. Time's up.
Thanks, guys.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we are currently scheduled for a quick 15-minute break, so you can just get up, stretch, move around, and then we'll come back in 15 minutes. So if you had questions that you didn't quite get to with anyone, this might be a good chance to catch them for it.
So, get back. Sophie.
I'm going to return the be fair.
Sophie, are you still at your desk?
Who are you asking for?
I was looking for Sophie.
Oh.
I think she has.
Is she
Oh,
up
yeah,
together?
you must be AFK. Okay.
I don't see her.
and get back into the next presentation. We are currently short one presenter because we're running a bit ahead of schedule, which is kind of great. That we're running ahead of schedule, not that we're missing a presenter. So if he is not on by the time it's his turn, we're going to skip him and then just have him come in at the end. So Ron, you should have co-host access for screen sharing, and I'm going to go ahead.
I'm sorry, before you get started, I will go ahead and say that the presenter is Mo Khalik, so he is supposed to go after Ron. So Ryan, please be ready to step in next.
Okay, I'm going to ask, is everyone muted? Yes. So whenever Joe gives the word for.
Oh, sorry, go.
Just getting all my screens up here, just a moment.
Yeah, your screen, we're seeing your screen.
Yep, I know. Okay, thank you for joining us today. We are Virtual Reload. We are all about. The question comes as to why should it be esports? There are a lot of intangibles of esports that are, you guys hear me? Okay. That are available. These things instill communication, problem solving, critical thinking, leadership, and conflict resolution. What we see is that 82% of esports participants have never involved themselves in another extracurricular. Also, gamers that are involved in esports have a 10% increase in attendance at school and a 1.7 GPA growth. It shows that esports will capture students that are not currently involved in another organized sport. Esports is a $1.5 billion industry, expected to double. There are 200 plus colleges that are offering scholarships in esports. Professional players make a minimum of $50,000 a year, and there are national world championship prize pools of $5.5 million to $33 million paid out. And viewership is growing 12% over year. There are 97% of teens that are playing video games, and that we compare that to traditional sports. 6.24% of high school boys play football. The problem is the barrier of entry into professional level of esports. How does one go from the casual living room games to the professional scene or the college scene? Gaining skills in video games can be difficult when playing alone, and it takes a lot of time to learn these skills without a coach to lead. Creating teams online to play with is also hard due to online play yielding less personal connections. Evan.
So our solution to this problem is to offer coaching for these individual players. So coaching will give students a competitive edge when being considered for college scholarships. It will provide services to help, or we will provide services to help build out teams at local schools at the high school and collegiate level. And also help foster the competition between those schools and universities. We're also anticipating offering after-school programs that will incorporate learning as well. Esports lends itself well to coding, cybersecurity, and we can also offer tutoring in other subjects such as math, science, and English. The tournaments that we're also we've been involved with will help provide a chance for these gamers who are coached up through Virtual Reload to win cash payouts, but also establish a gaming resume for their future recruitment into collegiate programs. So one of the things that we've noticed about esports as compared to the more traditional sports is that there's no structural foundation for these kids to learn these skills that will be able to take them to the next level, either at the middle school or the high school level. And what we want to do is help build up that foundation so that esports can be more online with the more traditional sports. I grew up as a swimmer. I swam for 20 years. I ended up swimming in college. One of the things that helped me get to that point was the club level aspect of swimming. Swimming is very important to have your conditioning up so that if you ever do take time off, then you'll lose that conditioning and you'll lose your competitive edge. So in order to get to that next level and be able to compete at the collegiate level, we're trying to offer year-round opportunities for these kids to be coached in esports. So there is some competition to the online platform that we have right now for providing coaching. It's akin to going to your local club and getting a golf lesson from your pro. Gamer Sensei and Gamers Ready are two other sites that offer online coaching. We would like to have established our website as a way for esports players to form a relationship with their coach so that they can come back again and again and have specific esports goals. Like I'd like to make the high school team. I'm a really good high school player. I'd like to get a college scholarship. How do I do that? By forming a long-term relationship with your coach rather than just going to the Walmart of coaching and getting a one-off ad hoc lesson.
And the other main competitor out there being Gamers Ready, we look at their site and they only have a few titles. We're trying to offer coaching in every popular title that colleges are providing scholarships in. The impact we've had to date, we've been able to reach hundreds of tournament customers to come out to our events. Furman University recently hired us to run a tournament series for them. And now we're working with a platform called Player Epic to run tournaments as well.
Sorry, we need to move on to questions.
Okay.
Thank you for your time. Go through the slides.
Yeah. Yes, the first round of coaches we've been able to bring on, we have about 25 coaches on our roster right now. Every single one of them has previous coaching experience, whether it be college or professional level. So we have not had to create any kind of a training program for them to be ready to go. And we will be utilizing their expertise in creating a future training program for coaches who want to come on that are not experienced. Kind of like a training school of sorts.
A mentorship program.
Yeah, a mentorship program, yeah.
Are there any barriers to expanding outside of South Carolina?
No, we are already virtual. In fact, our coaches are all over the world. So we already have the ability for our coaching sessions to be done online with anyone, anywhere.
And there's no state rules, borders, anything like that that could cause you issues with revenue, that kind of thing?
No, I don't see how that could be an issue.
Hey, Ron, are you planning on sticking to a collegiate group or what?
We're primarily focused on high school level. The feeling there is that the pipeline of traditional sports starts at your youngest age. You would consider. So we want to foster that at that level so that the colleges that are recruiting players in are increasing the talent pool that they can pull from.
Right, but I would assume, and I don't disagree with you at all, but I would assume that if you are going to introduce them to an esports world at a high school, the level, you ideally also want to connect them to a university as well, right?
Yeah, so we want to have the connections with all the universities that when we're saying, okay, we've got a Fortnite player that's really, really good, and they want to get a degree in computer science.
Yeah.
Right, we would look at the university list and we would say, well, these are the ones that we would recommend you talk to, and then we would help bridge that gap as well.
Cool.
As far as
have y'all heard of a company called eFuse?
I have, yes.
Okay, cool. Do you think that your model would compete or have synergy?
I looked at them briefly. I don't know all the things that they're doing. Mostly, I know them by name. What is their main thing?
It's a professional hub for collegiate esports coaches and tournaments. So I asked, contact me after this. I would like to put y'all in touch.
That would be awesome, Thomas. Thank you.
Yeah.
So looking at $650,000 to help us gain 300 monthly subscribers, clients, which would equal about $240,000 of annual profits. The equity, we are looking for it to be an equity investment. We had 7% down based on some previous guidance we had received, but that's also negotiable.
Got time for about one more question.
Yes, if we have 300 clients a month, that's what we would earn in the first year. Profit, yeah. Yeah. Here's our contact info. Any other questions? Yeah, we stream our events when we run tournaments. We stream those to Twitch, and then we upload them to YouTube for keeping posterity and such, because Twitch only keeps so long. Oh, that's awesome.
Okay, we're out of time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Ryan Manning from Bad Rhino Studios. I'm going to mute you all, and you should be a co-host, so you should be able to start screen sharing.
Perfect, thank you. Cool, can you guys see that all right? You can hear me all right?
We can see it and hear you.
Perfect. Okay. So Jojo, let's wait for you for the go-ahead.
Your go.
Cool. All right, let's do it. Rob Lynn, Georgia Entertainment Council, Tripwire, thank you guys very much. So glad to be a part of this. So I will crank through this very quickly. So I am the CEO and founder of Bad Rhino Studios. We're based out of the Midwest. We've been around since 2015, and we develop video games. So I'll step through real quick. So our mission statement is we create beautiful worlds and amazing stories. Our philosophy, I'll look at that real quick, but in short, we care not only about our team, the products we create, but also about the industry as a whole as well, and making a positive impact and change on that. A little bit about our leadership. So myself, I've got about 16 years of game development experience in the industry, 10 years of which is managing and directing teams and overseeing studio operations. I'm not going to go line by line, but in short, the real summary about this slide is that we trust in our advisors. We trust in the people that know more than we do, and we leverage that expertise. So we've got a great team, advisors that help us on about a weekly basis. So our vision, we've been largely operating as a work-for-hire studio for the past 5 years, and we strongly believe that our future lies in creating and building strong IPs. We have production-tested skills, technology, and talent as well. And in short, we're ready to start telling our own stories. You heard from Tim Chan a little bit earlier on Human Go. You can see that relationship there. I won't go too deep into this one, but that is a huge part about what we do. Again, making positive change not only in the world, but the industry as a whole. A little bit about our technology. You can ignore the slide. Basically, what it is that we stick to what we do best and we make the good stuff better. A little bit about the financials. This is our conservative growth projections that we have for the 3 IPs that you saw listed before. The key notes here are 2023, 2025, and 2027 are when we slate to have these 3 IPs released to market. The big ask, we are asking for about $250,000 in exchange for 15% stake in our studio. The key places where these resources are going to be allocated is for helping to bring on higher level management to be able to help us with studio growth, operations, as well as some key positions for our more senior guys. And then just a little bit about the team. So this is our current team right now. We are a distributed team, kind of spread all over. Everybody hails from various different backgrounds. And there's a lot of great experience and talent at our studio, and they do some great things. Thank you. I wrapped that up a little short. Questions?
Good. You have 7.5 minutes of questions, and I'm going to start actually.
Perfect.
You're almost my nemesis, because you mentioned everything about story, art, gorgeousness, but nothing about gameplay. And my question that's going to be is, how do I put this way? Failure rate of original IP is astronomical. How about that?
Yep.
You know, I like the fact that you're funding yourselves by doing other people's IP, and I like the fact, do you have, I guess that's the question I'm coming to. Do you have stake in everybody's, do you have stake in all the other, the second party work? Let's put it that way.
Are you talking about in terms of like equity stake with those companies?
Correct. Like one of them already mentioned, I believe you have 5% for what you're doing for the one with the H in the middle there.
The Human Go?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Human Go, we're actually just the sole developer on that one. I don't know if I can comment too much on the equity stake, but no, we are the primary developer on that particular IP. The other two are 100% our own IPs.
Oh, they were. You're already working on your own IPs.
Yes, that is
okay,
correct.
I didn't realize that. How are you funding yourself now when you're not? You projected what, 2027 or something like that? Or no.
Yeah. Yeah, so 2023 is actually when we slate to release our first IP, which is actually Shotgun Samurai. 2025 is when we're estimating to release Human Go. And then 2027 will be our bigger, most ambitious project to date, which we're just effectively calling Project Y right now.
So how are you funding yourself now?
Bootstrapping. We've literally taken zero investment or equity. It's simply, I believe, just from smart choices. We operate very lean and competitive, which has helped out greatly. And then just keeping overhead costs down to be able to move us forward.
Okay, but there's still, where's your seed money? Is it everybody working for sweat equity and everybody has a regular job? How's that?
No. Thankfully, the majority of the team is actually full time, and that has come through our partnerships that we've had as work for hire. We've worked on several projects, about 7 actually over this past year, 4 of which are still under NDA. Fairly large titles. We've been working with those to help to fund the studio.
Oh, great. So that's good. Okay. Yes. That's it for me.
Cool. Thanks.
Question here is, you've been running on work for hire for a number of years. How much you're looking for 250 from external sources? How much of your own cash are you putting in?
As much as I can. I know that's probably the horrible answer because I should know. This has been, a passion of mine to build the studio. So in large part, I've kind of turned a blind eye. Thankfully, I haven't over leveraged ourselves, but at this point, we're now actually turning positive profits. So we're not necessarily needing to dump more of my own personal money into it.
I wasn't actually referring to personal money. That's your problem. I was referring to studio money, because how long has the studio been in operations?
Since 2015. So we're pressing up on our 6 years now. Yeah.
So you're 5 years in, work for hire. How much profit are you from that? Are you plowing back into developing your own IP?
I would say probably as far as figures go, we're dumping about 125K is what we're dumping back into advancing these IPs. Obviously, a big part of that is that there is some contingencies about being able to get a publishing deal, be able to fund the rest of them.
Okay, how many people on the studio?
We've got about 25, of which about 15 are actively full time.
Okay, so 15 full time and 10-ish part time.
Yes.
Okay. That implies that after 5 years of work for hire, you've made a grand total of about 125K profit.
It is much more than that. Again, because of our lean and our man month rate.
Okay, if it's much more than that, where's all that cash gone, and why isn't it being plowed into your own IP?
No, that's what I'm saying. So one of the slides I actually left out here is the first 3 years of operation were much leaner. That was us building the studio, building our brand. In the past, about 1.5 years is when we actually started to see more of a explosive growth with that, of which one of our first full cycle titles for Switch started about 1.5 years ago. And then our work for hire opportunities, in particular the bigger ones that have accelerated us, came about in the past 10 months.
Okay, so you got me confused. You said you made a lot more profit than 125,000.
No, I'm sorry. I thought the question you were asking is if we continue that work for hire model moving forward.
No, the question was if you've been in business 5 years, is that the sum total of what you've been able to square away?
No, it's less than that. Again, with the understanding that the first 3 years actually were extremely lean for us, and then we've really only started to turn that
Okay, so when you say lean, you don't mean you're operating on low costs. You mean you were making no profit. I'm just trying to be clear.
Yeah, both of those actually. Yeah, we've always maintained very low overhead.
Right, and the teeny weeny detail that's lurking here is you're talking about 3 games, but you've said nothing about those 3 games.
Yes, that lovely 5-minute mark. So the 3 games themselves, I could actually go into pretty good depth on those. We've actually got design docs, we've got specs, we have everything that we need for those. Human Go, obviously, as you heard from Tim, we've been working with him for, I believe, actually about 1.5 years now.
Right, but that's not going to be your IP, is it?
No, that's for his. That's our development to build that out for him. He has graciously trusted us with taking the entire design of that. So while it's not necessarily, I would say, our own IP, it is a part of the catalog that helps us to move forward, which also helps us to bridge the technology.
Okay, I'm going to be pedantic here and pull you up on that one. It's not a question of, it's not your IP, period.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Shotgun Samurai and Project Wire, both our own IPs.
Right. So it's 2 IPs, not 3.
Yes.
Okay. You don't ever do that in front of real investors. Don't ever do it.
I would not.
They will throw you out the nearest window.
I would not. Tim is an amazing guy. We're proud to be a part of that, and I wouldn't in any shape or way try to steal that away from him. We're absolutely happy
the point I'm making is not that you're trying to steal that away from him. Your point is you're being, if I'm being impolite, disingenuous. You said 3 IPs. You are not developing 3 of your own IPs. Period. Don't ever do that.
Sure. You're talking on Human Go or Project Y? Well, that's the longer term one. That's about 4 years out from development. In terms of funding, yes, I mean, we've been working with Tim, like I said, for the past about 1.5 years, trying to secure a funding deal. Both of those projects does have contingency on it, whether it's investment or a publishing deal. But we do need the funding to be able to push those forward.
And we're done with questions. And I want to thank you. And I wanted to say one thing. Just surviving for 5 years is awesome.
Thank you.
I know, you pay people salaries, et cetera, et cetera. It's hard to put the number on, and there's that little extra we have that we're moving forward with.
Yeah,
so,
and I'll second that. Getting past the first couple of years, all of that is brutal. We understand.
Yes.
Yeah. That's all.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, next up we have Chase Peterson from Premier Esports. And I'm going to mute everyone and let you get your screen going.
Sure. Thank you. Okay.
We can see it and we can hear you, and go ahead.
Okay. Hey, well, my name is Chase Peterson. I am the owner and founder of Premier Esports. Call ourselves the home team. We're based here in Atlanta, Georgia. We are a entertainment company, an esports company. We have merchandise, and we are also a management company. So I know we've talked a lot about the explosion of growth in esports here with everybody else and their products. I don't feel I need to touch on that a whole lot more, but there is a huge growth in popularity. Esports has been on ESPN, has been on Fox News with Ninja. So you have, a large industry that's, growing and expanding here in the US. And really there's a few different hubs, if you will, of concentration of businesses that are in the industry. And right now you have the largest one, which is out in LA. There's one in Dallas there with a lot of esports brands. And really, we think that Atlanta is in the pole position to become the next hub of esports, right? And with all this popularity and growth, you have millions and millions of students and kids and middle schoolers and college students seeing this explosion of growth. And right now, 51% of college students think that a career in esports versus esports and content creating is a viable option for them. The 2 problems that the industry has right now is that there's no middleman in between the 99% of the amateurs, which is the grassroots, the middle schools, the college programs. There's no middleman to help people get to that top 1%. In every other sports ecosystem, you have tier 2, tier 3 organizations like Atlanta United 2 or an academy system that helps funnel talent, whether that's content creators or esports players, into this top 1%. So it leaves a lot of the industry underserved and really without opportunity. And that's where Premier Esports fits this bridging the gap in the pipeline, if you will. So we developed a advancement structure within the industry that allows anybody that wants to get involved and start their career in esports or content creating an opportunity to get involved with our brand and with our community. And it starts down at the bottom with Premier Rising. And through the development system, we serve the bottom tier with opportunity and experiences. And we also serve that 1%. So where you see this at right now is you have these top 1% brands like FaZe Clan and Optic Gaming and these big giant brands, but they're so exclusive that nobody knows how to get involved, right? So if you guys have children and your child comes to you and says, hey, I want to be an esports player, how do they start getting that development? How do they start building their resume? There's nothing like that right now in Georgia. There's nothing like that from what I can see in the entire industry. And that's where we come in to help facilitate that growth within our own organization and make it really natural, right? So we give them these opportunities to compete at the highest level. Our Academy esports players competed up against Dignitas last month, took them into overtime. These are players that are totally not paid by us. They're just given the structure. We teach them like a pro and we give them the environment that allows them to thrive and lets them learn what it's like to be that professional player. And then we also have that top tier talent. We right now have one of the #1 teams in Latin America for a popular game title called Rogue Company. So we developed that system internally. Where we're pulling these students and these gamers and these potential players and creators from is from the entire industry, that 99%. So we're currently looking at 145 million users across Twitch, Mixer, which is no longer around, YouTube, and Facebook. And these kids they're not given any opportunity to do that. So there's a huge market pool for us to pull from to help grow our brand internally. Kind of where we're at now. I started this back in 2018. Excuse my dogs, I'm sorry. And we've gotten a lot of traction so far. So last month, we were actually named one of the top 100 most active teams on Twitch. We have over 100 influencers within our brand with a combined over 111,000 Twitch followers, over 1 million Twitter impressions, and 50,000 watch hours across our content creators.
We need to open it up for questions. Sorry.
Okay. No, you're fine.
Do I get first dibs?
Sure.
Because he said the word. So hi, I'm Bart. I work at High Res. We publish Rogue Company and Smite and a bunch of other stuff. So
yeah.
I think the thing I'm most curious about in this pitch is the assertion that there's not there's a lot of people that are not professional esports players, but essentially the entire esports industry is in the position that you are in outside of the 1%. So the question is, I mean, case in point is that Smite is a 3rd or 4th tier esport that is populated exclusively by the types of organizations that you're describing that you want to be.
Right.
So I think that it's interesting, we've seen 2 pitches today for esports teams. One of them was purely speculative. This one is more the grassroots approach of okay, we've built this big community following through, okay, let's bring all the kids together and let's get them aligned and let's get them pushing in the right direction. How do you guys see turning the corner on revenue? Because if I see a Newzoo graph that shows $1 billion in esports revenue, again, I'm going to scream because it's not true. First off,
I mean, it's
show me a company that's made any of that money that isn't just straight up equity investment.
Sure.
So that's the question, right? Legitimately, what's the revenue model here? and it's not going to be through advertising. It's not going to be through selling your content. It's not going to be through operating tournaments. The question is, do you guys need seed money to expand your business and start paying players? Or is your goal to place players? Is your goal to become a big player in the second and third tier of esports? Like, where are you trying to get to?
Yeah, so we are positioned to fill the void into the tier 2 level, while also still serving, tier 1 players as well. So I think the credibility would be entirely lost if I pitched to a potential player or somebody that has 1 million subscribers and said, "Hey, come join us. We're going to be doing all these cool things," and we didn't have that top 1%. I think I'd lose a lot of credibility there. So we do have the top tier, but what we really aim to solve in the industry is giving those 99%, right, the up and coming people a place to grow and gain experience and compete at the top level and really learn what it takes to be that type of player, because when you deal with amateurs, there's a big gap in knowledge and how to act and what they should be doing in terms of practicing. So in terms of revenue model, it's really going to be similar to the rest of the industry. Is we're still going to be serving that top 1%, but we're also providing crucial services, tools, merchandising opportunity to the bottom tier. So 220,000 Twitch affiliates right now, out of 6.4 million people on Twitch that are actively streaming. Those people are eager to start working with sponsors. They want to start competing. They want to do all these things, but they're not given the opportunity because their channel is 25 concurrent viewers, not 1,000. If you group all those people together under one roof, you can position yourself to larger companies. And we're, connected with eFuse. I actually spoke with Patrick the other day about when these kids get out of college, where are they going to go next? They're not going to jump straight into the NFL like a football player would. They have to kind of just sit in this waiting space online until somebody finds them. And that's kind of where we come in. And there's a whole, obviously we only have a few minutes to talk about this, but there's a big opportunity to give those people tools and services like creating their own merchandise, giving them coaching, video editing services. There's a huge market, and from what we've seen in the last 2 years with our community, people really need these things, and no one's really offering it to them.
My advice would be to refine your pitch around how this becomes a profitable business. Like, there's the type of thing that you're describing, to be frank, is a dime a dozen, right? There's a lot of organizations that are out there that are trying to build affiliate networks of young aspiring esports players. And what they can offer them is tantamount to a jersey. And at the end of the day, the idea of building an affiliate network of mid and small tier creators in a niche and selling it may be a viable business, but you need to refine that pitch if that really is your path to revenue. Because my question is going to be, all right, how many media sellers do you have on your team? How strong is their Rolodex? What brands are they selling into? Who do you project you're going to be able to bring in? Because it doesn't matter that you have 1 million viewers or 100,000 watch hours a month across 1,000 channels.
Okay, I have to cut you off now. We're a little over.
Yeah, sure, for sure. So I would say look into MCNs, look into how you're going to actually sell media if that's the core of your pitch.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Okay, and next up we have Karen Williams from Hiccup Interactive. And then after her, we will have Mo Khalik. And then we'll get into judging and everything fun and fancy.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Waiting for you to share the screen, and then I'll start the timer.
Okay, give me a second. Let me also share my audio because that's a thing for me. Okay, I think I'm ready.
Okay, starting the timer.
All right. Hi. I'm Karen with Hiccup Interactive, and I would like to present to you Urchins and Ink. Essentially, Urchins and Ink is a 2D twin shooter action game that teaches Japanese. The narrative roughly follows along the lines of The Little Mermaid. As far as it goes, like Sumi is a kraken that lives at the bottom of the ocean. A piece of note, a report floats down to her deep dark depths, and using her anglerfish friend Angie's light, she reads her note, and it mentions the search for the kraken, giant sea monsters, myth, legend, or reality. And as far as Sumi knows, she's the only kraken that she knows of. So she ventures out to brighter waters to try to find more of these notes, to learn more about her kin, and to learn more about whoever that is looking for her. So her adventure begins. She goes off to look for more notes, and scattered amongst the sea floor, she sees papers, but also sea urchins. And the papers are getting stuck in a sea urchin's spindles, and they're destroying them. So using the power of Japanese comprehension, she is deciding to learn more about how to read this English script, or a human script, and move forward on her adventures. So in general, Urchins and Ink, as I mentioned, is a twin shooter, and it is an edutainment game. But the most important part is that it is an action game first and a teaching game second. The important criteria is that the language learning is a challenge criteria, and the more you know, the greater advantage. So in general, the sea urchins will have the Japanese characters on them. As you pick up a letter, it'll show that there's a partial match. And once there's a full match, it'll turn blue, and kind of like Pac-Man logic, you're able to shoot it and destroy it. And from there, you're kind of gradually learning the letters through repetition and through interesting levels with different types of gameplay. As far as it goes with other language learning games, as far as like Duolingo, Rosetta Stone, Memrise, things along those lines, the way that Urchins and Ink differs is that, again, we focus on having an action game first and then an education built on top of that. So it focuses a lot more on continued play through the player, through interest and investment into the story and things along those lines. It greatly encourages trial and error, so a completely brand new person to Japanese can pick up the game and start playing it, similar in a way of when an enemy has a big red button on them, you aim to shoot it. So you pick up the letters, you see something glow, you go for it. So this kind of like encourages more play through interest of game retention, as opposed to going off of a student's pure interest in learning it, because sometimes that can kind of wear away and the alerts start to get annoying. So from there, I'm going to show a quick video of the actual gameplay. Really quick jumping in, you take your vocabulary list. And as you get the letters correct, a soundbite pops up to teach you how it's pronounced and what it looks like. I hope you can hear it. And so that kind of like goes along with like comparing that and different levels, having different types of gameplay in order to incorporate this type of trial and error type learning mechanism. Let's get out of there. So from there, when it comes to sales information, essentially with these type of games, especially with them not being explicitly education focused, it kind of being more game and theme and story focused. These type of games are typically split into complexity, so beginner, intermediate, and advanced. The intentions of Urchins and Ink is to start off that way. So the first game would be a standalone and teach the alphabet. Second game would build on vocabulary lists and learning more reading complicated words. Then going on to kanji, because that is a completely different alphabet system than just a phonetic alphabet. And ultimately, the end goal is for the game to be on the Switch, which would bundle the 3 games into one and have added content added to it and expand further on the universe and the story that exists as Sumi finds who is looking for her and learning more about Japanese and her way of learning. Our target audience typically includes 3.9 million users that are interested in learning the language, especially when it comes to Japanese.
Time for questions. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. We plan to go to other languages, investment opportunities, the team, and go ahead. Okay. Let me. Yes. All right. So I graduated from Columbus State University with a computer science degree. I am the owner and head developer of Earthington Inc. Currently, this essentially is my entire project. I'm the only programmer on the project for the moment. I would like to hire more. I've worked at casino gaming companies. I currently work at a VR training simulation company. And I've been programming for years, ever since I got out of school. And Hiccup Interactive has been established for 1 year now as an LLC.
So you picked a very nice, simple language to start with in Japanese. That was sarcastic. So it's very complex to try to relate a lot of those things. How's the traction going with that? How well are game players, your play testing revealing that you're making the connection with people actually learning the language? It's interesting to them. It's drawing them in. I mean, the art is great and the gameplay is fine, so no worries there. But the actual connection of the gameplay to the education, that's my curiosity.
So far with actual playtesters, they are learning a couple of the characters, getting at least recognition between the sounds connected with the actual syllables that go with them. I have made contact with a professor that actually works specifically with learning languages through technology, especially via games, and through her incorporating more logs and things along the lines in order to solidify the educational aspects of it, so that the way that I'm passing on this information is more focused towards that. For the time being, I've actually changed the difficulty of the level so that it's the entire soundbite, because that's easier to learn as a learning mechanism as opposed to gameplay difficulty.
How do you envision transitioning to other languages, given the? So it's an edutainment game, which is it's a niche of gaming, and then it's a stylized anime game, which I envision the final product you guys think is more of like an Ori and the Blind Forest kind of look and approach based on some of the concept art. So like I can see it, which also is like a niche kind of art style, and it lends itself very well to a game that's about learning Japanese. So let's say that it's Russian. Do you envision that, like, a kind of like lolly style mermaid girl exploring her mystical world is going to lend itself well to learning, like, Cyrillic?
Well, as far as it goes, since the story itself is kind of, I guess you can say it's applicable in different situations, as far as, Little Mermaid wanting to learn more about a foreign world, learning more about those things, and this is just simply a more stylized skin to put it in. Kind of just thinking about the appeal of Japanese and anime and things along those lines, like that style is very popular throughout games in general. And the way that the translation system works within the actual game, it works in both directions. So if it's an English speaker trying to learn a logarithmic syllabary language, it can also go back and forth. So I feel like the appeal, as long as if you like the art, if you're interested in the story and you want to learn that language, either direction, it applies.
Awesome. Thanks.
Final question.
Is your game really pretty much just geared to having people learn different alphabets? I mean, if there's certainly the Romance languages use the same alphabet that we do. So are you just limiting yourself to this?
The focus is like logarithmic syllabary characters, so like Arabic, Cherokee syllabary, things like Korean, any of those that have non-Latin Roman letters. But I blanked on the other half of your question. I'm sorry.
No, I just want to know if you were more limited to just learning different, the different language characters versus.
Yes. When I mentioned like the game would be split into 3 different parts, the first step would be learning the alphabet. That's the first step of any language. Then from there, we go from vocabulary lists and how to use those. And kanji is kind of something that's a bit specific for Japanese, but going from building that vocabulary set.
And we have to wrap. We're well over the 10 minutes. Take it offline a little bit. And thank you very much, Karen.
Okay, thank you. Contact me.
Okay, and next up, and our last presentation for the day is Mo Khalik with Tut Trials. And you should have screen sharing access.
All right, can you guys see my screen?
We can see you, we can hear you, you're all set to go.
Perfect. So I'm Mo. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Karnak Studios. We grew up as 2 best friends playing games and making games. After we graduated a couple of years ago, we wanted to realize the dream. We had a creative idea of an ancient Egyptian character and world. So we decided gaming's a risky business. Let's flip it around. We want to test our idea to see, if we're on the right track. We made a low-cost webcomic series. We started posting it on Instagram for free. We grew to a community of 110,000 organic fans. We spent no money in advertising. A couple of months ago, they told us, hey, we want to see a game out of this comic. That to us was the validation right there. We began working on 2 trials, a 3D platforming game. It's not an endless runner. So it's built from the ground up for iOS and Android. Quick 2-3 minute levels. We're looking to launch with 150 levels. Players can compete online asynchronously in leaderboards and high scores. It follows the story of a comic. So we have our hero Toot, descend into the underworld to save the deities from an evil overlord. And to do that, he has to face the biggest enemies and the greatest fears. So, when we look at the gaming market, we see that the top 30 games make up 33% of the market. I know you guys see the slide a lot, but this insight is so important because that's where we want to position ourselves. And what allows us to position ourselves, in such a high place in the gaming industry is, well, first of all, we have 110,000 organic fans. That means that, we have a short feedback loop. Whenever we want to introduce a new character or storyline, we add it to the comics. If people like it, we add it to the game. So we slowly build the game our fans want us to make. And hey, people say, well, you have this community. How do you know they're going to shift to the game? So we put up one post a couple of weeks ago saying, hey, we're working on a game. Sign up if you'd like. We got 2,000 emails from that one comic. And every day we write it in the caption, we get 50 to 70 new emails. And we're not even marketing, a lot. So when we go into full force marketing, we'll get a ton more emails. We still have a year ahead of us in development. So we want to make sure we build high customer lifetime value. We're not trying to make a quick hyper casual game. We really want to build further on the brand. The game is going to be freemium, so it's free to play. And then, we have supporting media. We've already sold a couple of merchandises. These are one-time purchases. The game monetization. So the game has extra lives and power-ups. These are impulse purchases. They're consumables. Durables are more permanent. So that means that players are going to be able to buy skins, new heroes, and of course, access to the online competitive mode. We've already signed with a Boston literary agency who are helping us find the publishers, and their editors have approved a graphic novel script of 150 pages that our fans told us to make. It builds on the story of the game. We're looking to launch that Q2 next year. From there, we're looking to launch the game, by Q3, Q4 next year. Like I said, we have a year of development, but we want to build on the momentum of the graphic novel. We want to look to support the game. We're trying to build a game that players can play for a long time. So we're looking to support the game as well as start on our next game, which we don't have design pillars for yet, but we know that strategy is something we'd like to explore. It lends itself well to the IP and it lends itself well to mobile. When we look at our metrics, we have 110,000 organic followers. We reach 2 million unique people a week at a 14% engagement rate, triple Instagram's average. When people look at our comics, they say maybe it's for kids. That's not true. As you can see, our bullseye target is 18 to 24-year-olds at 45%. The spillover is 25 to 34-year-olds at 30%. And then it spills over to the teens at 10%. Our core audience is the US, so that's our audience at 40%, and we have a near equal gender split. So it's no surprise that our fans are signing up because these are the people who want to play mobile games. We're 9 people. We do everything in-house under a unified and codified vision. That's how we maintain the quality. Everyone on the company is on the cap table. We work remote and asynchronous, so we don't have things like rent we need to deal with. We're based in San Francisco. We're a US-based company, but everyone works from around the world. So we have people in the US. I'm back home with the family in Egypt. We have people in the UK, Peru, the Philippines, and Australia. And we're asking for $300,000. You know, we built that game prototype, and now we're looking to fund the development over a year's time. We've already talked with a few publishers. We ran some CPI tests, got good numbers between 39 cents and $1.82, depending on the region. We still haven't signed with a publisher, but you know, the ones we're talking to have already said, you know, their sample contract shows that they're willing to give a minimum payment guarantee for live ops. So that's why we're raising just for the development, because the publisher would pay for the beginning of the live ops. So we're asking for $300,000. Like I said, we don't pay for rent or any externalities. The money will go 100% into product. 92% will go into game development and 8% will go into comics. And product means salaries and software licenses only. So that's who we are. That's what we're doing. And, you know, I'd love to take in your questions.
Great. You're 5 seconds early. And I'd like to start off with the first question.
Sure.
It's 2 or 3 parts. One is with your 100,000 there that you have, your audience you already have, and the fact that you can produce a comic book as well as a game. Have you thought of why haven't you just bootstrapped yourself through Kickstarter? This seems like perfect for that, for a change. You know.
Right. So it's one of
Hey,
our.
I can scratch my question.
Right. So we were definitely thinking about Kickstarter, but for us, one of the things I didn't mention in the pitch was that we're a first-time team, and we want to make sure that our product is a success. So we're trying to minimize risk every step of the way. And for us, that means partnering with the right people to have, you know, the right people on our board, and to make sure, you know, that it's not just us closing in on our IP and building from there, but actually, you know, we have the right people to guide us and make the right decisions. So partially it is about the money, and partially it is because, you know, we're a first-time team and we're looking for the right guidance, both from publishers and from the right investors on our board.
So if I hear you correctly, you don't think you have the gravitas to pull off a Kickstarter? Is that you think, you know, you don't have the pedigree? That's part of the question. But the second one is, how are you funding yourself already?
So we do believe we can pull off the Kickstarter, but it's about beyond the Kickstarter, building the right game, honing the monetization strategy. We feel it'd be better if we partner with the right people to guide us on these things. So at the moment, like I said, we're all on the cap table. We really believe in that. We have the community backing us. We've been working on this demo for 3 months, and we just got a first playable ready. We can send that out to you guys. And at the moment, we're going through the fundraising process so we can continue working on this full time.
So it sounds like, in a concise way to put it, is you want a strategic check. It's not just about the check, but who writes the check.
Yeah, that's partially very important for us. Like I said, we're a first-time team, and we get that, and we know that, you know, the guidance is very important, especially in the gaming industry, when things like monetization strategy and tying it back to game design is super crucial.
Out of curiosity, do you have an idea for what would be an ideal investor? Like, could you describe that person?
Right. So for us, it's definitely someone who's in the gaming industry, someone who, you know, has previously scaled the game, was able to work with IPs. You know, we have an IP, so it's not about, you know, trying to get a quick game out, but it's how we build the IP and link between cross media. So how do we take the comics and maybe make exclusive comics in the game, have people share it? That way we can get new players in organically. So these kind of ideas are important to us. So definitely someone with cross media experience.
Also, I mean, here's a thought. I mean, I was going to make the same comment about Kickstarter. I mean, if you've got that a decent success with the webcomic, you know, part of what's running through my skull is, if you're concerned about the ability to build a game, why not focus on what you're good at? Really build out that, you know, the webcomic and the webcomic audience, graphic novels and everything like that. Build that out so that becomes really big, and then license out to, you know, pick a mobile developer. But that's another story.
Right. I mean, for us, we grew up playing games and making games. Me and my co-founder met in the school's IT lab in grade 2 playing Lemmings. And we grew, playing Ocarina of Time and, the Super Marios and the Star Foxes. And these are the kind of games we want to make. So we've always wanted to be a gaming studio. The comics is all supporting media for the games. We just, use that to test creatively. Are we on the right track? And it just started growing from there.
Yeah, I guess where I'm going is that if you're actually having some success with the webcomic, my thought would be to prove that you can monetize that. Start to think of ways about how you do that before necessarily you step into a whole other arena of game development and things like this, where you could just get buried. I'm just wondering aloud.
Right. I mean, that is the risk, that we get buried. And that's why we're looking to partner with the right people, because like I said, we're a first-time team and we're trying to minimize the risk every step of the way. So that's definitely a possibility. And that's exactly why we opted for fundraising, so that, we have the right investors on our board. And this is why we're seeking a publishing agreement instead of self-publishing. So we have, the right publisher who can hone the monetization strategy, link it back to the game design, and make sure, the whole system's working great. So I definitely understand that possibility, and this is why we've opted for that path, so we can have the strong skeleton that would support us. We have the IP, we have the community, and we definitely want to focus on that. But we also want to have a strong support system because it's our first time jumping into that.
I tried to go to your website and I was not allowed to. It was marked as dangerous, just to let you know. If you could ping me later when you know how I can get to it, but
absolutely, that
I was blocked immediately. I don't know if anybody else wants to try it, but
I already did, and I was fine.
It's because it's not an HTTPS. It's an HTTP, so your web browser's blocking you because of digital signatures.
Oh, just because of the HTTPS?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I get a not secure warning, but I can live with that.
And we're out of time.
Hold on, Joe. Because of that question, I'm going to call prerogative and ask another one. First of all, a quick plug. Samsung is a sponsor of Siege at 7 p.m. They're going to be giving an overview of the Samsung store for mobile games. So I'd recommend that Karnak Studios tune in for that at 7 Eastern tonight. And I did want to know, what is the investor getting for that $300,000?
So we're looking for a priced equity round of 20%.
All right, that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Sorry, belated one. Where can we find the webcomic?
So it's on Instagram. It's at The Daily Toot.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody, I think that this is probably a first, even though this is our first virtual investment conference, and we have finished almost an hour early. I'm sure everybody's probably really happy about that, just in time to wrap things up and then go grab some lunch. So just a reminder to the judges to please refresh your link because there were some slight changes in the voting. And I definitely want to thank Abby Jocelyn for, this is going to show you how not techie I am, for doing this Zoom thing and getting this whole thing set up. It has just been wonderful. It worked a lot smoother than I ever thought it would. So thank you, Abby. And I'm going to let Abby say what's going to happen next. But we are going to take about 10 to 15 minutes to have the judges vote and get it all recorded. And we will get back on and announce the winners.
Making the vote, which is the place to think about is which candidate do you think would be most likely to get funded? That's the criteria. It's not the presentation, it's including their presentation and their concept, which one is most likely to be funded in each category.
Now, can you describe, remind us, all of the folks on the panel, what is the discrepancy between best startup and best overall?
Best overall can be large company. Best startup meets the criteria we have in the application, which is that they didn't have more than 15,000 in investments so far, including their own money, but they didn't have more than 15,000 in income in the last. Revenue in the last 12 months, and they didn't have in the last calendar year they didn't have more than 15,000 in revenue. Those are the criteria, but that's all set up for you. It's all taken care of in the
on the vote, we listed out who qualifies for each category.
Thank you.
Great. So
Did we use the link that was sent out at 8:31? Is that the correct one, or we just refresh that? It would automatically update to a correct one.
Yes, that's the correct link. Just hit refresh, and that should work fine.
Is there an opportunity for the judges to get together and have a quick discussion?